Dear Edith mumbled every prayer she knew, repeated them relentlessly until her tongue ran dry. But that didn't stop poor Edith from fulfilling her dues from the Lord. She wept like there was no tomorrow waiting for her, a tomorrow she will miss. It was her only moment where she could make the Lord hear her and her agony. She feared death, and above all, she feared the death that would soon consume her and her daughters before her. She was a brave soul who kept her word to God and remembered Him until her dying breath. It was for this devotion that she beckoned the Lord to help her dear daughters survive this abhorrent hell created on His earth. She did not fear her impending death because she knew her faith was strong enough to deliver her from evil. But she wasn't quite sure of this fact with her daughters. Her lungs had been failing to function in the turmoil she had found herself and her family in. She prayed for their survival over her own. She couldn't bear to see them perish with her own eyes. She wished for safeguard. She hoped for everything humanly possible for their safety. But in the end, they were just one of the many voices that the silent ears of God had to subdue, coming from the place where Edith found herself. No amount of devotion could have saved her, because death is merciless. It comes and it takes what is his. Edith and her children were no different in this war. They were one of the many loyal devotees who had lost their fair share of living a life. The happiness that is to be attained by living a life and carrying a belief was snatched from her and 500 others like her and their families. Prayers were a misnomer for a call given to her by her peers and others before her. Edith, she saw her daughters die before her eyes. Her faith shattered in ways words could never articulate. Her cries of agony were just as misheard as her prayers. And in this agony, she lost herself too. To life, to faith, to sanity, and to everything that made her Edith. She had no second to blink or ponder, or even grieve for them. Then, as a flash that took her daughters away, she too was uplifted of this life. Did she find the heaven that had been promised to her her entire life? All the dedication to a promise that could never be proven to be true, but just a blind hope that it does. Her last moments of truest agony were spent in cries of help to a supposed spirit above. She was snatched from the very last moments of her life with her dear daughters in the hope of a false salvation that never came. The daughters were just as hopeless as their mother was, leaving her to be at peace with the one above, hoping that, in doing so, their mother would appreciate their silence in this cacophony. Only if the daughters knew that the cries made by Edith for the Lord were for them and not for herself, they would have surely embraced her dearly. All was so lost in their understanding of each other's predicament that nobody truly realized that they were being separated forever. And this moment was going to be their last to look at each other in their loving eyes and realize this tender embrace was their last touch of warmth. But they were all lost to death.